The garden beyond the wall, the autumn leaves rustled softly beneath Marcus Thompson's feet as he walked down Elm Street, the same route he had taken every day for the past 15 years. The neighborhood had changed around him, old houses replaced by modern apartments, familiar faces moving away one by one. But Marcus remained like a tree that had grown to deep roots to transplant. He paused at the corner, adjusting his worn leather briefcase. The morning air carried the scent of wood smoke from someone's fireplace, mixing with the earthy smell of fallen leaves. Above him, the sky stretched gray and endless, promising rain before evening. Marcus had always been a man of routine. Wake up at 6:30, coffee and toast, walk to the accounting firm where he had worked for 2 decades, home by 6, dinner alone, sleep by 10. The pattern had become as natural as breathing, as predictable as the seasons. But lately, something had been stirring inside him, a restlessness that he couldn't quite name. It had started small, like a pebble in his shoe that he couldn't shake out, a feeling that he was missing something important, that life was passing him by while he counted other people's money and filed their papers. As he turned onto Maple Avenue, Marcus noticed something that made him stop walking entirely. There, between the old Victorian house and the new brick building, was a section of wall he had never seen before. It was made of weathered stone, covered partially with ivy that had turned brilliant orange in the fall air, and in the center of this wall was a simple wooden door, painted green and worn smooth by time. Marcus blinked, certain he was seeing things. He had walked this street thousands of times. How had he never noticed this door? He looked around, half expecting someone to appear and explain this strange addition to the familiar landscape. But the street was empty except for a tabby cat that watched him with knowing yellow eyes. The door stood slightly ajar, revealing nothing but shadows beyond. Marcus felt drawn to it in a way that made no logical sense. His practical mind told him to keep walking, to stick to his schedule, to arrive at work on time as he always did. But something deeper, something that had been sleeping for years, whispered that he should step closer. He set his briefcase down on the sidewalk and approached the door. The wood was smooth under his fingertips, warmed by the morning sun despite the cool air. When he pushed it open, it moved silently on well-oiled hinges. Beyond the door lay the most beautiful garden Marcus had ever seen. Winding paths meandered between flower beds that blazed with colors so vivid they seemed to glow from within. Roses climbed trellises in spirals of red and white and gold. Fruit trees heavy with apples and pears dotted the landscape. In the distance you could see a small pond reflecting the sky like a mirror. But it wasn't just the beauty that took his breath away, it was the feeling of the place. Peace settled over him like a warm blanket. The constant worry that had lived in his chest for so many years simply melted away. Here, time moved differently. Here, he could breathe. Marcus stepped through the doorway and felt the soft grass beneath his feet. The air smelled of honeysuckle and fresh rain, though no clouds marred the perfect blue sky above the garden. He walked slowly down the main path, his business clothes feeling strange and out of place in this natural paradise. At the center of the garden stood a simple wooden bench beneath an ancient oak tree. Without thinking, Marcus sat down and closed his eyes. For the first time in years, his mind went completely quiet. No deadlines. No worries about bills or schedules or the 100 small anxieties that filled his days. Just perfect, profound silence. When he opened his eyes again, he saw a woman tending to a nearby flower bed. She was perhaps his age, with silky brown hair tied back loosely and dirt-stained gardening gloves on her hands. She looked up and smiled at him, and her smile was as warm as sunshine. "I wondered when you would find your way here," she said, her voice gentle and familiar, though Marcus was certain they had never met. "I'm Sarah. I've been waiting for you." "Waiting for me?" Marcus asked, confused but not alarmed. Nothing in this place seemed alarming. Sarah nodded, pulling off her gloves and coming to sit beside him on the bench. "Everyone finds the door when they're ready. When they need to remember who they really are, beneath all the rushing and worrying, and trying to fit into boxes that were never meant for them." Marcus felt tears prick at his eyes, though he couldn't say why. "I don't understand. What is this place?" "It's whatever you need it to be," Sarah said simply. "A place to rest, a place to remember, a place to choose." "Choose what?" She gestured toward the garden around them, then toward the door, which Marcus could still see in the distance. "Whether you want to keep living the life you've been assigned, or start living the life you were meant for." They sat in comfortable silence for a long while. Marcus watched butterflies dance among the flowers, listened to the gentle splash of fish jumping in the pond. He thought about his empty apartment, his identical days, the feeling of being slowly buried under routine. "What if I'm too late?" he asked finally. "What if I've wasted too much time already?" Sarah laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "Time isn't wasted if it teaches you what you don't want, and it's never too late to choose differently." Marcus stood up slowly, feeling lighter than he had in years. He looked back at the door, then at Sarah, then at the garden that seemed to stretch on forever in all directions. "Will you show me around?" he asked. Sarah smiled and took his hand. "I thought you'd never ask." As they walked deeper into the garden together, Marcus realized he had left his briefcase on the sidewalk outside. For the first time in 15 years, He didn't care if he was late for work. In fact, he thought he might not go to work at all. Some doors once opened change everything that comes after, and some gardens are worth more than all the schedules in the world. The door in the wall remained open behind them, waiting patiently for the next person who needed to remember that life could be more than just the sum of its routines. And in the distance, barely audible above the whisper of leaves and the song of birds, came the sound of Marcus laughing, really laughing, for the first time in longer than he could remember.